Good afternoon. It's so wonderful to be here in the inaugural Chat for Impact WhatsApp Bootcamp. It's really amazing to have everybody here. I see we have over 150 people. I think it's now 172 people joining us today for the bootcamp here in India. My name is Gustav Preckelt. I'm the founder of Turn.io and of Preckelt.org. And we've been working over the last year together with WhatsApp to help organizations like yourselves build these incredible services that are helping people overcome challenges during COVID. We believe that every single person on the planet has got a fundamental right to be able to overcome their challenges and have the support, specifically secure, private support to be able to do that. Our lives have become so much easier since WhatsApp launched its business API, because it now makes it possible for us to build services that can go to scale, to help a mother, for instance, get the information that she needs to look after her baby, to help people and governments deal with COVID, and to help educational services build new and interesting ways to reach their learners. One of the most amazing things as we speak here is the service that MyGov India has built with the help of Haptic and the support of WhatsApp, which as we speak right now is doing hundreds of messages per second, over 10 million messages per day. This wouldn't have been possible before if it wasn't for these type of services, for WhatsApp, and obviously for the organizations that conceive of these amazing services to help and support people throughout India. So I'm just really excited to see the work that you've been doing. We had an incredible response. Hundreds of organizations applied. We have more than 100 organizations that are going to take part in the bootcamp for the next 2 days. I'm really excited to see the type of services you guys are going to be building. I'd like to thank our team that has worked tirelessly to make this possible. I think you'll enjoy it. All the experts that you need to help you build the service that you want to do. We really want to make it a hands-on service. As maybe a starting point, I want to just think of the MyGov service and some of the other services like the WHO service that's launched. You know, a lot of them started with fairly basic information, connecting people in a secure fashion to the information that they needed. But over time, they added new services to make those services more functional and to really help people get the information that they need and to connect them with services in a secure way to improve their own lives. This wouldn't have been possible, obviously, without the incredible support of WhatsApp, both their contribution to make your services available free of charge and also their generous allocation of messages. And I would like to welcome Bobby Abhijit Bose, who is an entrepreneur himself, working in the mobile industry of over 20 years experience. He's the head of WhatsApp India. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what his vision is for WhatsApp in India and their hopes for the type of service that you'll be building. And thank you all for being here. Over to Bobby to hear his vision for WhatsApp and your services. Bobby.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our WhatsApp Chat for Impact Bootcamp. I'm delighted to be here with you today. You know, I've spoken publicly about this many times. One of the main reasons why many of us joined WhatsApp was to explore how we could leverage WhatsApp's platform and reach to allow partners like you to create and scale innovative solutions which could hopefully solve some of our country's most pressing social problems. Partnering in our country's continued growth is one of the key areas of focus for us, and we've deepened our investment here, giving people across segments and regions access to digital services at low or no cost through WhatsApp, a user experience that they trust and are comfortable with, I believe can significantly impact many people's lives. One example of WhatsApp's impact is unfortunately one that was felt by all of us. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, WhatsApp has been at the forefront of supporting civic actors and government organizations with their relief efforts. And when COVID hit and then hit us again, many people, including my family, turned to and relied on WhatsApp, whether it was to find the latest information in our area or to coordinate with groups for emergency supplies or services for friends, or to simply keep in touch and check in on our loved ones. Entrepreneurial partners like you were able to bring to life innovative solutions, including helplines and chatbots that became the source of truth for important COVID-19 related information for things like vaccination, oxygen, hospital beds, food, medicines, and many other things that were required to help the impacted communities recover fast. All of this was possible through the use of WhatsApp's Business API. And we're hopeful that all of you will now raise the bar again, delivering the next set of social impact solutions that we could never have envisioned. Ones that explode financial inclusion, reimagine how health and support care are coordinated, digitize the hardest hit businesses or segments, and much more. We hope that the WhatsApp Chat for Impact Bootcamp is one of the catalysts for that. This bootcamp on the 10th and 11th of August is for any nonprofit organization who wants to launch a WhatsApp helpline to support the work of helping communities. We're excited to partner with PrayCelt.org to make this Chat for Impact Bootcamp a reality. Organizations and entrepreneurs like you have always driven a positive social change, and it's very important for us at WhatsApp to support you along that path. Thank you all for everything that you do. We look forward to building some of the most innovative and exciting solutions together through the use of the WhatsApp API. Here's wishing you all the very best. Thanks.
Thanks, Abhijit and Gustav, for your encouraging words. Here's to raising the bar in delivering the next set of scalable social impact services and solutions. Namaste and welcome all to the Chat for Impact Bootcamp. We have a very exciting lineup of training and informational sessions that we will cover over the next 2 days to get you and your fellow team members familiarized with the WhatsApp Business API and the Turn.io platform. I'm Indrani Vedula and manage new business partnerships at Turn.io.
I'm delighted to be here among all of you. I welcome you all and cannot wait to support you in your journey of creating impact. Hello everyone, I am Manish Panohar. I am the community manager at Turn.io. Together with my colleague Indrani, I'll be co-hosting the sessions during the bootcamp.
As co-hosts, we will be tag teaming in the background to manage the sessions and swap over to our colleagues when it is their turn to present. Although we would have liked to run these sessions in a more interactive format, we hope you understand that the sheer number of participants and organizations in this webinar does not permit us to do the same. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we jump into the bootcamp overview, here are some housekeeping rules to bear in mind. Firstly, please take a moment to update your profile name in Zoom in the format organization name _ full name, just like how you see mine. Manish, I think you need to update yours as well.
Thanks, Indrani, for it.
Okay, great. The next one we will go into is, please note that all questions need to be raised only in the Q&A section. Chat will be disabled during the training sessions. And lastly, these sessions are recorded. Next slide, please. So over the next 2 days, we will be covering a lot. Today is all about what's possible with the WhatsApp Business API. Tomorrow, we will roll up our sleeves to build your service through advanced and technical training sessions and also share some very useful best practices. Following day 2, we will set up office hours from the 12th through the 16th of this month for you to join and make sure that your team can participate in that, ask the questions they need to, and make sure that your journey to building your service is smooth sailing. Next slide, please. Here's a quick look at what we will be covering today. We will be taking 2 10-minute breaks and we'll run 3 sessions. Let's get started. To kick off our session, we begin with an amazing presentation that showcases some very inspirational stories from our clients. And to share them, we have Pippa Yates, our co-founder from Turn.io.
I'm so excited that I get to kick off today's summit with a showcase of what we think are some of the most innovative and impactful services running on the WhatsApp Business API today. There is something so energizing about the start of a project. You've identified a problem you want to solve, and you're thinking through the possible solutions. I've been in your shoes. Before Turn, I spent a decade as a human-centered service designer. I got to work with global nonprofits to develop digital services around the world. I've worked on mentoring app for adolescents in India, a mobile web magazine for Indonesian girls struggling through puberty, an interactive voice response service for pregnant Nigerian women, and a USSD and SMS service for asylum seekers in South Africa, amongst many others. And while these other digital technologies can be incredibly powerful tools in an NGO's toolbox, never before has there been a channel as powerful as chat messaging. Unlike services like YouTube, the one-to-one nature of chat makes it highly personal and trusted. It can be automated, giving users answers in an instant. It's affordable for those from poorer communities, as well as for the NGOs trying to run Chat for Impact services. Its multimedia capabilities combine the best of SMS and IVR. Voice notes and video make it appropriate for those with lower literacy levels. And lastly, it's accessible. No one needs to download your app. They're already using WhatsApp to chat with their family and friends. So for many people across the majority world, chat is the internet. And with that comes an incredible opportunity for us to create impactful chat services. Now, I get the enormous privilege of introducing you to 3 incredible social impact organizations and their Chat for Impact services. I'm hoping these case studies will inspire you, but even more importantly, will show you how you can achieve so much with such a simple solution. So first up is Health Alert, an initiative from the South African National Department of Health and created and supported by Praycult.org. I don't know about you, but for me, 2020 was a bit of a blur. So much happened so fast, yet so slowly. But if you can pass your mind back to early March, the pandemic was just starting to take hold in my home country, South Africa. And I remember sitting in front of my TV, listening to the news anchors warning of the impending doom. The health system is going to be overburdened. We weren't prepared. But the Department of Health, supported by Praycult.org, jumped into action, creating Health Alert. The service reached over 1 million users within just 3 days of launching, and still continues to climb. In fact, Health Alert is one of the highest engaged user bases of any service on the WhatsApp Business API. At the moment, over 95% of users are returning, and they come back to get trusted, official information as the pandemic continues to unfold. What created trust and drove enormous traffic to the Health Alert service was media like this. The South African Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, talking on TV with the WhatsApp number showcased as the official support channel. Now, I know not all of your services will get the opportunity to be showcased on live TV, but it is important to think through where your service will be advertised and whom or what will lend credibility to your messaging. So now that you've heard a bit about Health Alert, what does Health Alert actually look like on WhatsApp? The easiest way to understand how something works is to experience it yourself. So I'm going to ask you to pick up your own mobile phone, and you can either scan the QR code on the screen or send hi to that number. Alternatively, there will be a link in the chat in the webinar you can use to open up WhatsApp on your device. Don't worry if you don't have your phone on you or you're struggling to connect. I'll be going through a few slides that highlight what we love about Health Alert. So as Debbie mentioned, Health Alert delivers information about COVID-19, accurate data on the cases at the moment in South Africa, a symptom checker, lockdown level rules and regulations that help to curb the spread of the disease, and most recently is facilitating vaccination registration for millions of South Africans. So let's get into some details about the different features of the WhatsApp Business API that Health Alert uses to deliver a great user experience. First off, Health Alert is automated content in 5 languages. And as you see in the screen on the left, it's the first message the user sees when they engage with the experience, making sure that in whatever language the user is in control and can engage with the service in the language they're most comfortable in. The service also always has a date when it was last updated. Now, you might think this is a bit unusual for a WhatsApp service, but the user can see how frequently the service is updated, which builds trust right from the first interaction. Health Alert was also designed to scale from the start. The bulk of interactions work off a keyword-based global menu. Not only does this allow users to navigate any menu item at any time from anywhere in the bot, but it is completely stateless and is optimized for hundreds of thousands of concurrent users engaging all at once. You'll see in the middle screen there the great use of multimedia content for the keyword symptoms. This symptom infographic and other multimedia create easy ways to understand quite complex health information. And these same graphics were used across social media so that communication was aligned everywhere. Health Alert now also asks users if they would like to opt in to receive alerts. And it gives you the option of receiving only important alerts or weekly summaries. This means using message templates and the WhatsApp Business API, the Department of Health can use Health Alert to deliver absolutely essential information to the 8.3 million users using it today and their families. Now, all of these features I've described so far rely on the amazing Precker.org team updating content regularly. Similar to other content publishing channels, new content does drive engagement on WhatsApp. But there are other tactics you can use to make your service useful. One of which is creating what we call a utility feature. A utility is something kind of like a calculator. It's a tool you use to get a job done when you want to sum up something. And while you might not use your calculator every day, you know it's always there for when you need it, and it becomes your go-to for when you need to add something up. Health Check by Health Alert is a great example of a utility feature. In order to reduce the burden on local clinics and hospitals, Health Check provides a way for citizens to check their symptoms and determine their risk of having COVID-19. I'm sure all of you during the last year have experienced that panic moment where you had a little scratch in your throat or the sniffles, and you didn't know whether you do or didn't have COVID and wanted to immediately rush to your doctor. Health Check advises you whether your risk is high, low, or medium. What this means is that only users who are high risk end up going to facilities. This means fewer people queuing at health facilities and less stress on the health system overall. The Department of Health also has a dashboard with health check data, allowing them to identify potential surges across the country. So as you've heard, the strength of Health Alert is up-to-date information delivered at the correct time, as well as useful utilities like Health Check that can be used when they are needed. Together, they deliver a powerful Chat for Impact service that has played an important role in the South African COVID-19 response. Next up, I'd love to talk to you about Solve Ninja, an initiative from Reef Benefit. I was lucky enough to meet the Reef Benefit team last year in February 2020 at our last in-person Chat for Impact Accelerator in Mumbai. Not only were they some of the most passionate and humble people I've met, what they wanted to do with the WhatsApp Business API got me very excited, and they've grown from strength to strength over the last year. Solve Ninja activates young citizens to solve small problems that leave a big dent on their local communities. In an attempt to curb choking air pollution, foaming lakes, enormous garbage dumps, and killer potholes, the service inspires youth to become action-based citizen champions called Solve Ninjas. To access Solve Ninja, you can either scan the QR code on the screen and send hi, or send a WhatsApp message to that number on the screen. Alternatively, you can click on the link in the webinar chat to open up WhatsApp on your device. Follow the instructions to engage with the chatbot as a guest, so you can get a feeling for how Solve Ninjas tackle challenges to change their communities. But let's talk about some of the things we love about Solve Ninja and how they're using the WhatsApp Business API. As you heard from Gautam Raj, the Solve Ninja chatbot helps take youth on a journey. And that journey starts with an introduction video that talks all about what Reap Benefit does, gives the user the sense that they're joining the Solve Ninja community, and uses a quote from Barack Obama's quote on the program to establish credibility. We think a video introduction is a great way to get started and get your new users familiar with your organization and how they can use your service. Solve Ninja is perhaps one of the most personalized chat for impact services we've seen so far on the WhatsApp Business API. Not only can a user choose their language, but they can engage with community issues based on their city and the persona they most identify with. A reporting rhino, a campaign chameleon, a hands-on hippo, a techno tiger, or action ant. I would consider myself a techno tiger. Providing their users with a personalized, relevant journey makes youth ever the more excited to get involved. And of course, it's fun. But not only is the service highly personalized, it's inspirational. Solve Ninja makes it easy to see what other Solve Ninjas have done and how they have succeeded, providing the much needed nudge to get started. But it wouldn't be a chat for impact service unless Reap Benefit was measuring the impact of its service. And I'm sure, as most of you know, tracking the offline actions of your users is often the hardest part to running a digital service. Solve Ninja gets users to complete forms that verify the actions they have taken in the real world, providing Reap Benefit with real-time results of the impact of their service. It's easy for Solve Ninjas to speak to a human if they need to. In fact, Reap Benefit have iterated on their service from day one because they are gathering continual user feedback and chatting with users directly. The benefit of having this human in the loop model alongside an automated service cannot be underestimated. We actually recommend all Chat for Impact services start with a help desk. You'll learn so much about how your users relate to and engage with your service through interacting with them directly and automating what works afterwards. We love Reap Benefit's grassroots approach, their dedication to iterating on their service, and their drive to creating change at the local level across India with Solve Ninja. We can't wait to see what further iterations of Solve Ninja look like. I want to tell you about the My Body, My Space Festival, which was brought to WhatsApp by the Forgotten Angle Theatre Collaborative. When we first met the team at the Forgotten Angle Theatre Collaborative, we were blown away. They asked us if it was possible to run their public arts festival on the WhatsApp Business API. Our whole team looked at each other and said, sorry, did you say arts festival? Yes, a festival, they said. Well, we've been speaking to a lot of organizations who were attempting to shift their training or in-person education programs to WhatsApp due to the pandemic. We had never considered the idea of running an entire arts festival on WhatsApp. But at Turn, there's nothing that excites us more than a new way to use the WhatsApp Business API and have an impact. So we said, of course you can. And we couldn't be more impressed with the results of the work from the Forgotten Angle team. The My Body, My Space Festival allows a participant to navigate through over 80 works of art on offer at their own pace. The works are split into 4 festival topics. Body, which covers works that ask the viewer to do something specific with their body. Space, which is works that have been grouped according to the location they have been filmed in. Interact is a program of interactive, creative offerings, workshops, and art education content. And news covers weekly updates, press, and reviews. So I'm now going to highlight a few features we love about how My Body, My Space was set up on the WhatsApp Business API. The team at the Forgotten Angle Theatre Collaborative created a service that allowed you to enjoy performances, but also encourage participation in the art itself. In the interactive work Protest, the user was prompted through a series of questions and encouraged to send an image, artwork, poem, or song by replying with a picture or video or voice note to the WhatsApp line. The resulting collaborative artwork is being used to amplify social issues. Performances were delivered as short videos, either individual videos or in multiple episodes. Created on a phone and watched on a phone creates this immersive, really intimate experience. And leveraging WhatsApp, these short videos means that the user never has to leave the WhatsApp experience to view the video. It's a completely seamless experience. Another inspiring aspect of the My Body, My Space initiative was how they thought through the different ways the user might navigate their service. As you heard from PJ, the team wanted to make sure that the arts festival was accessible to a rural audience, many of which would never have engaged with a chatbot before. Therefore, part of their solution was to provide a very guided experience that helped users navigate the festival content without getting lost. They broke their content down into menus and submenus and clearly marked these with an image. They used the numbers emoji to communicate episodic content and the children emojis to show what content was friendly for kids. They also very clearly guided the user to the next best artwork at the end of each message. They also took the global keyword one step further and provided a shortcuts menu to all of their content. Users who wanted to take a more direct route to a specific work of art could use a shortcut keyword. They sent the shortcut menu as a series of images or a PDF that the user could see at any time. It's a great way to showcase all of the content you have available without sending the user a message with 80 options. They also created how-to videos for navigating the service. These short videos took their users who were stuck step by step through how to engage with their chatbot. In this way, no users were left behind. So as you think about your solution, not only consider the problem you're solving, but consider how you might be able to help your users navigate your service without getting stuck. I'm sure everyone in this call has engaged with a frustrating chatbot that didn't go as you expected. So any guidance you can give your users upfront and when they get lost is well worth the effort to achieve your impact. We love the Forgotten Angle Theatre Collaboratives had the ambition to launch a festival on your phone. They've paved the way for many more innovative event experiences delivered through the WhatsApp Business API. So this short showcase highlights only 3 of the over 100 social impact organizations who are creating chat for impact services using WhatsApp and sharing their experiences with the Chat for Impact community. There are organizations, both big and small, working in health, education, humanitarian, civic engagement, and agricultural domains, amongst others. So whether you're thinking about developing an information-based chatbot, a help desk answering questions, or are guiding your users to long-term behavior change. You'll have no problem finding another organization who'll be learning alongside you about what works for that use case. So don't forget to join our Chat for Impact community on LinkedIn so you can connect with the growing community. By the end of this summit, I guarantee you will have the skills to create a service just like the ones we've showcased today. A simple and impactful service on WhatsApp that will accelerate your mission. Feel free to use the breaks to play around with these services we've shared today and get a real feel for what works on WhatsApp. I personally cannot wait until the day I get to showcase a few of you and the incredible work that you're doing with the WhatsApp Business API.
Wow, now wasn't that inspiring and a perfect way to kick off our bootcamp session on day one? I hope you're all as excited as we are. Let's take a quick 10-minute break, grab a cup of chai or coffee, stretch your legs. Coming up is a session on the WhatsApp API rules of engagement presented by Simon Dehaan, Chief Technology Officer for Turn.io. Enjoy your break.
Hi, and welcome back. Hope you had a good break. My name is Simon Dehaan. I'm co-founder and the Chief Technology Officer for Turn. And I have the privilege of doing a live session today. So thanks all again for joining. I think I can speak for all of us at Turn when I say we really love India. It's such a beautiful country. There's so much opportunity to really do good. And I think, like I said earlier, it's such a privilege for us to be involved in this initiative and to be able to support you in this journey. We've already seen a few examples earlier today from Pippa's talk around how the WhatsApp Business API is being used. And over the last few days, we've been very actively involved in India with the team at MyGov and at Haptic with the launch of the new COVID certificate feature on MyGov. And it's just incredible to see how the WhatsApp Business API can be used for social good. And I think the COVID certificate feature on the MyGov WhatsApp Business API service in India really shows that. So the MyGov service in India is running with 50 million users at the moment. It's processing 10 million messages a day, and just 3 million unique users in the last few days for the COVID certificate feature that was launched. And so we're just very, I think, like I said earlier, we're just really impressed with India as a country. There's so much opportunity to do good. And we're just really excited to see what you all will be doing over the next, during this day and tomorrow, and please just let us know how we can support you in this initiative. So I'll be doing the rules of engagement section on the WhatsApp Business API today. Manish, you can queue up the first slide. And as we go through this section, we have about 50 minutes. I expect to take about 35 to 40 minutes for all of the slides. Please remember to use the Q&A feature in Zoom for your questions. The chat will be open. You can use the chat for your normal chat and banter. It's great to see your engagement there, but please use the Q&A section for your questions and answers, because that way we can tag team between ourselves and answering those and just either group them together and just really keep track of what the questions are that are needing to be answered. And it's quite easy for those otherwise to be lost in the chat. So let's get started on the rules of engagement of the WhatsApp Business API. Now, before we do that, I need to make one thing very clear. This is the WhatsApp ecosystem. All of us talk about WhatsApp, but it's three parts to it. There's the normal consumer app, which everyone mostly has on their phones. And it's for private users. We refer to it as the consumer app. Then in the middle section, what you see here, there's the business app, and that's for small businesses, and that's called Business WhatsApp. And so that's been around since January 2018. It has features in there, simple automation features, out of office response and things like that, and means to organize your chats in ways that are useful for small businesses. What we are talking about today is the WhatsApp Business API, which is on the far right. And that's for medium to large businesses. It's been available since 2018. We've been working with the Business API in various shapes or forms since 2017. And this is an important distinction to know. So there's the consumer app, which is the app we all have on our phones. There's the business app, which is great for small businesses, and just your normal small enterprises. And then there's the Business API. And the big difference between the Business API and the other two on the left is that the Business API does not need your phone to be online all the time. And so the Business API has its own phone number. It is accessible 24/7, whether or not you are online or not with your phone. And so this is important to note. When we talk about features that are available in WhatsApp Business API, we are talking about the features that are available in the far right column. And so what we see happening generally is that there's features available in the consumer app or in the business app that are available before they are available to the Business API. And so there's often many questions that come through, like, we know this is possible via WhatsApp. Can we do it? For some of those questions, the answer will be no, simply because that feature is not yet available inside the WhatsApp Business API. So that's what I think we need to have clear right before we start. What we're talking about is the Business API. Manish, you can go to the next slide. Now, there's three key policies around messaging on WhatsApp as an organization or as a business, or in your case, as a nonprofit, that you should know. And why it's so key that you know these things is that you need to take these policies into consideration as you work through your strategy and your design of the service that you want to offer on WhatsApp. Because if your strategy or your design is not aligned with these policies, it's going to be hard for you to scale up that service. So the first policy you really need to know is that you need to have consent from an end user to initiate a conversation. So that means even if you have a database of numbers that you have collected somewhere, you need to get explicit consent from those phone numbers for messaging over WhatsApp before you as a nonprofit can initiate messaging with them. And we can talk about strategies over the next 2 days about how that can work, what strategies you can apply, what things we've seen work and not work. But the key thing is you need to have consent. A user needs to opt in to receive messages from you as a nonprofit. You cannot just use your existing database and start sending messages to them. Secondly, the API has different messaging types. There's session messages and there's template messages. And depending on timeframes, you have to choose one of those. And we'll cover in the following slides what that actually looks like. But this is important. So there's things you can do within 24 hours after having received a message from an end user. And there's other things, well, there's things you cannot do after 24 hours. So we'll go into more detail there, but it's important to know, because this means that if you want to send a message 24 hours later as a notification, for example, the things you can do in a normal WhatsApp conversation may not be available to you outside of that 24-hour window. Lastly, you need to have a clear escalation path to a human. Pippa already alluded to it. There's plenty of services that are terrible over chat, that are hard to do, that where your end, or even despite all your best efforts to design your service to be really robust and easy to use, it still results in your users being confused, or maybe you as an organization didn't anticipate a specific use case from an end user, and they're trying to make that clear to you that that's something that they would like to do. So for all of those scenarios, you need to have a clear escalation path to a human. If you've designed your service to be fully automated and your user gets stuck or is just frustrated and they don't have a clear escalation path to a human, then that's increasingly frustrating for the end user. And so we were going to talk a little bit about that as well over the next 2 days about what does that escalation path to human look like? What does that practically mean for you as an organization when you use the business API? Yeah, so there's some practical sessions coming up. So sorry, Manish, we can go back to the previous slide. So just to summarize, you need to have consent. I'm already seeing questions looking like coming in, so I'll be answering those shortly. You need to have consent to initiate a conversation. The API has both session messages and messages for after 24 hours, and we'll talk about those now. And you need a clear escalation path to a human. So let me just answer the questions right now around consent. Does consent need to be a written declaration over mail, or what is the process for this? Consent can be received over a WhatsApp conversation. So if an end user initiates a conversation with you, you can reply and say, hey, for us to keep you updated, you need to opt in or you need to provide consent. Do you provide consent? If they reply yes, then you capture that in turn, and then you can start sending them messages. So the important thing here is that the consent applies for you as a nonprofit initiating conversation with an end user. An end user can always reach out to you, and then you are in the 24-hour window, the session messages, which we'll get to now. So Manish, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so there's different types of messages on the API. There's the session messages, and then there's the message templates, which apply outside of the 24 hours of the session messages. So the session messages allow you to reply to a user, to user messages that you have received within 24 hours of having received that message. So the aim is to drive a quick customer service. And so if you look at the screenshot on the right, you'll see here that you receive a message and it says, how can you do broadcast messaging via the API? So I'm just pulling up the slide here as well. And the important thing here is that you'll see in the red arrow, the 24-hour window passes because it's the next day. And so if a user, if you do not reply to a message that you have received from a user within 24-hour windows, then that 24-hour window closes and you cannot send a free form message back anymore. You must use what's called a message template. And so these message templates are, as I said, as the name already alludes to, it's a message template. And so it's a highly structured format, and they can have placeholders to allow for personalization and things like that. But they aren't as free form as the messages that you can send as a reply for the normal session messages. So if you receive a message, and so a usual use case, for example, is if you are if you're running a 24-hour service and you receive a message over the weekend and you miss the message. Now, by now it's already, the weekend's passed, you are 24 hours later and you cannot send a reply back to that user anymore. For that scenario, you simply need to use a message template. However, if you have people staffing your service throughout the weekend, then they can immediately send a reply in any free form without needing to use a template. Because they are still within the 24-hour window. Now, these message templates are highly structured. You can think of them, if you're familiar with the concept of mail merge or things like that, you can think of it in those kinds of terms. You can provide a placeholder, insert a value, and provide personalization in that manner. So what you see here then is that we've sent a template message. The user sends a reply, and then you're back in session messages again. So because you've received a reply, then you can start sending any kind of free form messages for the next 24 hours. Now, to do this, again, to reiterate on those key policies, is that to send a message template back to your user, you need to have received consent from that user. So it's very important that as you design your services, to keep that in mind, to say, for any message that you receive from a new user, ask them for consent so that you can follow up with them should that be necessary after 24 hours. So we're going to dive into a little bit more detail, and Manish, you can go to the next slide, around message templates. What do those look like? How do you use them? what does the process look like to actually create them, and what are some of the things you need to keep in mind? Next slide, please, Manish. So the best practices for message templates is that only transactional notifications as per the WhatsApp Business API policy. Now, recently, WhatsApp has started to allow non-transactional notifications, and that's country specific on whether or not that's allowed. But it's so what WhatsApp means around transactional is that it needs to happen around a single transaction. So if someone send me an update about the usual examples that WhatsApp gives is something like parcels or flight notifications or things like that. Then WhatsApp says, okay, you want an update. Great, you've opted in for the single update. We're going to send you that single update when it's ready using a message template. Now, the use case that they're extending, which is extending non-transactional notifications, may be relevant to you as well. And what that means is that you can start, as long as you are very clear and upfront in your opt-in, what the user is opting into when you're asking for this consent to say, we're going to send you a number of messages over the next few days relating to long COVID recovery plans or things like that. Then under certain scenarios, those are now allowed. However, it's safest for you as you design your services, certainly over the next 2 days, to stick to those transactional messages for now, because there's a lot of detail as to what is or isn't allowed by the WhatsApp Business API around those notifications. So the guidelines, the best practices here is to make very sure to use language that specifies the intent and the use case of the message. This is also important because, as we will show in the next few slides, around the approval process of message templates. So the other best practice is, like I said earlier, personalize your templates for a one-on-one experience. You can use placeholders to do so, and so that you can fill in someone's name or location or specific details that allow for a more personalized experience. Do not create open-ended call messages. This worked well for the SMS industry for a very, very long time. But it's also why the SMS industry has started to be not so appealing to end users.
Apologies. It seems like Simon might have lost connection. We're just waiting to get him back on the call. It's a technical problem. Please hang on.
Hi there. Sorry. Are you able to hear me again? My connection crashed somewhere.
Yes, we can hear you, Simon.
Okay, great. Cool. So we were talking about personalizing templates for a one-on-one experience. And not creating open-ended cold call messages. So we were talking about SMS and how that worked for a very long time. and now is no longer as effective for social impact means. So WhatsApp has done an incredible job in designing the message templates to be safe for use for, well, not necessarily safe, but to be widely applicable for businesses and social impact organizations. And while the message templates may feel like they are a constraint, they actually guard the user experience in a way that ensures that businesses can continue to use this, the message templates, sorry. Never mind that one. Manish, can we go to the next slide, please? I'm still having some issues on this side, but we'll manage. Okay, so some of the rules for message templates. You need to, before you can use message templates, you must use an opt-in. You must receive an opt-in from the end user. You can only send message templates to users who have opted into your WhatsApp service. WhatsApp message templates need to be approved by WhatsApp before you can actually use them. You must plan in advance. So the turnaround time generally for WhatsApp templates is roughly 2 to 3 days. And it's really essential that you do plan for them in advance before you want to use them. So message templates, specifically for the nonprofit sector, often fall slightly outside of the usual use cases for the WhatsApp Business API, because many of the normal use cases are actually around commercial use. And given the fact that you are doing nonprofits and social impact work, sometimes you fall slightly outside of the boundaries of the usual use cases of message template approval, and it can take a little bit longer to get that approval through. So keep in mind that it's roughly 2 to 3 days for WhatsApp to approve your message template before you can use it. After it's been approved, there's no option to edit it. So a message template cannot be changed or updated once they've been approved by WhatsApp. So really take your time to craft them well, to design them well, to think through the content, to think through the user journeys, and really just plan your engagement over your WhatsApp experience using message templates, possibly even just prototype it out on paper, and then submit them in bulk and get them approved. The message templates cannot be used for promotional or sales-oriented activities. And so those are outright generally rejected by WhatsApp. Also, message templates for surveys are not allowed. Personalization is key. And I think we've got a next slide coming up in 2 slides. Yeah, where we show how the personalization is done. If your WhatsApp template has personalization, and it is more likely to be approved. You can send message templates in multiple languages, but keep in mind that only certain languages are currently supported. I'd need to check which of all of the Indian languages are supported. We can do that in the following one-on-one office hours calls if necessary. But just keep in mind that it is possible to have multiple languages per message template. And the way this works is that you can have the same template and provide different translations for that. WhatsApp will not help you with those translations. You need to provide those translations yourself. Every single message template needs to fall into a category, and the categories are predefined. So WhatsApp has a set list of categories, which we will show on the next slide. Manish, can you go to the next one, please? Okay. So these are the message template categories. It's either account update to let users know or update about changes to their account, an alert update, important news or notifications, and notification around appointment updates. So that's things like if you're doing scheduling appointments for people at a clinic or things like that. You can use that vertical. An automatic reply is if someone's not available to answer a question, or say you have specific office hours and outside of those office hours, you need to send an automated reply. That's a vertical you could use. Again, some of these other template categories, issue resolution, payment updates, and things like that, may be more towards the commercial use cases, which may not immediately be relevant to your specific use case. But I think it's important for you to know about these template categories, that as you submit your templates, that you select the most appropriate one. Generally, the ones that we've used the most for some of our social impact initiatives is the alert update or the appointment update. And so inside Turn, when you have your account set up, the user interface will allow you to create these templates and select the appropriate template categories. If you're unsure about which category is most relevant to your use case, do feel free to reach out to Turn support. We can try and navigate that space for you. It is quite often that you are in a use case, specifically for nonprofits and social impact organizations. It can happen that your specific use case doesn't really fall squarely into one of these categories, and then it's just a matter of selecting the best appropriate one. Like I said earlier, the alert updates is often the one that's used the most in our experience. I see Indrani already posted the languages in the chat. So languages available for templates is English, Hindi, Bangla, Punjabi, Telugu, Marathi, Tamil, Urdu, Gujarati, Kannada, and Malayalam. Sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing those correctly, but those are the languages that are available for message templates at the moment. Manish, we can go to the next slide. So here are some examples of changes to rejected templates to obtain approval. So these are some real templates that we've used before that were rejected by the WhatsApp and Facebook teams that manually review, sometimes manually review these message templates. And so you'll notice that these that the changes required to get a message approved, a message template approved, is often quite subtle. So if you look at the top left one, you'll see, hello, we haven't heard from you in a while. We've highlighted that we haven't heard from you in a while in red. And then the changes below to get it approved is we've changed that to, we've been chatting with you about, and then there's a placeholder. And so you'll notice that the subtle change there is that on the one that was rejected, it was that the language is actually, we haven't heard from you, which means the user hasn't replied, or it indicates that maybe the user lost interest or things like that. And the approval, the version that was actually approved shows that, hey, remember, we've been chatting with you about this subject. And that can be anything. That can be about COVID, that can be about health-related issues or employment or whatever else. But you'll notice that the tone is often quite important in how you craft your message templates to make sure they are approved. To be honest, often it still is a little bit of a hit and miss at times. And it often takes a few tries. So don't get discouraged if your message template is not immediately approved. In our experience, it just takes a few times, it takes a few iterations. What we have found is that in each iteration, actually, we end up with message templates that are better. So like I said earlier, don't be discouraged if it takes a few tries to find the right template. Generally, the template that you end up with is actually a better, clearer use case for the end user. It communicates more clearly what your intent is with that user. It often makes better use of personalization. And so if you want to make sure that your message templates are approved, just remember those things. It's iterative, watch your tone, your language, make sure to add personalization, and be very clear about the intent of that template, about why and under what circumstances you would want to use that template. So the next slide, we've got a few more examples of approved templates for the various use cases. So you see the top one here that says hi, and then the angle brackets with a 1, those are the placeholders. And so if you craft a template and you want to include someone's name in there, or you want to refer to a certain topic or something like that, you can use those placeholders, and then WhatsApp will insert the values that you provide when you send the message template, into those placeholders. And so for me, if I was going to send this one to me, for example, to myself, it would say, "Hi, Simon, sorry for the delay in our response. Would you still like support?" And so those placeholders allow for personalization in the templates. You can use multiple placeholders like we do in the guidance one, which is the second in the top. It says, "Hi, one, hope all is well. Professional CV and updated CV makes a huge difference. Please update your CV and on our website tool by," and then we give a clear instruction, or you can update it through WhatsApp by, again, and it allows for an insertion of a bit of text that is a clear intent for what the end user is meant to be doing. And so use these templates will be shared with you after the fact. Keep this in mind. Just use them as reference for as you design and work through your own message templates for your specific use case over the next 2 days. Again, we're here to help out with some of these message templates. If you want to have a sounding board around, would this type of message template work? What's the likelihood of that getting approved? We can help, but we cannot guarantee that message templates are going to be approved, simply because it's up to Facebook and WhatsApp's teams themselves who do the approval. However, from our experience, there's some tricks or some gotchas that we have found, and we're definitely available for you all to help navigate that space. We can go to the next slide. So there's some very clear things that are not permitted by WhatsApp. So sales, discounts, promotions, product recommendations, or offers are not permitted. Recurring content is not permitted either. Recurring content also generally is subscriptions. So if you're building a service where someone opts in once and then is expected to receive messages for you over the course of the next few years, a slight exaggeration, but that's not allowed with message templates. Asking customers for reviews is not allowed. Asking customers to share notifications, so basically forward messages around or suggesting that they do that, is not allowed. Product marketing and brand surveys is also not allowed. Again, you'll notice again in many of these guidelines that much of this is written for commercial use cases in mind. And I know many of you are nonprofits, and so this may not immediately be relevant to you, but it is important to know. These are the guidelines that WhatsApp gives for the use of message templates, and you have to be aware of them, and you do need to stay within those guidelines for your specific service. Next up is consent, because all of this really hinges on user consent. You need to have consent for the end user before you can start messaging them using message templates. We can go to the next slide. So it is your responsibility as a business to store customer opt-ins and to ensure that the customer that you choose has agreed to receive WhatsApp messages from you. So again, as it says right there, these messages must be transactional. So general promotional messages are not permitted. If you're looking for sending through bulk messages and things like that, the WhatsApp Business API may not be the best tool for you to use at this point, because it's meant for highly personalized one-on-one engagements and customer support or general help types of chat services. So there's an example there where on a website, you can supply your phone number, and then the website can capture that phone number and store it as an opt-in. Now, how you capture that is not really all that important. The important thing is that you do capture it and that you store that consent somewhere on your systems. Now, if you decide to store consent using Turn does provide you tools to do that in a WhatsApp conversation. So you do not necessarily need to break out into a specific website or some other sort of platform. You can do all of that in WhatsApp, assuming that the end user is the one reaching out to you. So as you are replying to an inbound query within the 24-hour window, you can capture consent, and Turn will allow you to do that. Store that consent on the user's profile so that 24 hours later, you still have the opportunity to message those users using message templates and re-engage with them. Next slide, please, Manish. And we can talk about the consent requirements. The organizations must clearly state that the user is opting in to receive messages over the organization from the organization over WhatsApp. So in all of your copy, you need to be very explicit. Why are you asking them to opt in? What are you asking them to opt in to? What are they consenting to? So that when a user receives a message from you as a business or as a nonprofit or as a social impact organization, then it is very clear to them why you are messaging them, because they have allowed you to do that. If you don't communicate this well, then chances are that people will perceive your service to be annoying or spammy, and they will start blocking your service via WhatsApp. Now, because WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted, the signals that WhatsApp acts on to identify nonprofits or social impact organizations that are misusing the business API and not providing a quality user experience is those block rates. So you really want to go through the process of reading or working on that copy and making sure the copy is very clear and explicit so that the end user knows what they are opting into, that there are no surprises for them, that you will be messaging them, and all of this to prevent them from marking you as a abusive service or a spammy service and increasing what's called the block rates on your WhatsApp service. Because high block rates, continued high block rates can result in your WhatsApp service being banned entirely. So this is really important that you go through that and you practice that, the copy for your consent, you really work on that to make it very clear to your end users. Secondly, organizations must clearly state the organization's name and that the user is opting in to receive messages from them. Again, who are you? We are organization XXX. We want to send you this message. Do you consent? Yes or no? Lastly, organizations must comply with applicable law. You all are in India. You know the Indian law best. So just make sure you stay within the Indian legislation with regards to the opt-in laws. Many of these opt-in laws differ per countries, and so it really it's worthwhile for you to read up on your local laws with regards to opt-in requirements in India and make sure that your service complies. Next slide, please. Yes. So, like I said earlier, many of these systems that WhatsApp has put in place, the message templates, the session messages, the personalization, all of that is meant to create a quality user experience. And how do you do that? So first of all, clearly communicate the value of receiving important updates of WhatsApp. Just don't bulk send people. People generally do not appreciate that. Be very explicit about what types of messages the user is opting into. Why are you sending them this message? And as you send it to them, also confirm again to say, hey, you opted in to receive this. This is the message that you were expecting from us. Avoid messaging customers too frequently to mitigate perception of spam. So we've run a service for a while that sent notifications more than once a day, and it immediately resulted in an increase in block rates on the service. So speaking from experience, I would really suggest that you at most stick to one notification a day. And even that would be, I think, much. As you send people a message template outside a 24-hour window, you send them a notification that you've opted into, still provide them with explicit means for opting out and make that very clear to them about how they do that. And then all of this, like I said earlier, really relates to what's called your quality rating. So WhatsApp maintains a quality rating for every WhatsApp business API service out there. And the quality rating really is what signals is WhatsApp getting from your end users with regards to the quality of service that your WhatsApp number is providing. And the clearest signal that they get is if people start to block you because you're too spammy, or they report you for bad behavior. And so if WhatsApp gets any of those signals from your end users and it goes above a certain threshold, your number will be flagged as being a poor quality experience, and you will need to fix that. Because if that continues to be, you will run the risk of suspension. So WhatsApp really cares about making sure you have a quality user experience, and the message templates, the opt-in requirements, the personalization, the language, all of these things are all designed specifically to ensure that the experience for the end user is a really good one, that the end user is in control. And so it's really worthwhile for you to, as you work through the strategy of your service, like we mentioned earlier, to really think through, well, to really take all of these things, keep them in mind. Because if you don't, you will be fighting against WhatsApp's policies, WhatsApp's guidelines, and those are there to protect the end user. And so if you find yourself struggling, then really go back to the drawing board and say, okay, where are we not aligning with the policies and guidelines of WhatsApp that may result in a poorer user experience? As long as you stay within these guidelines, you will have a high quality user experience, and you'll be off to the races, as they say. Next slide, please. The human escalation. Yes, next slide. So chatbots can provide value for businesses in several ways. It's all of the known use cases, really. Reduce costs, drive efficiency, automating specific tasks for you as a nonprofit, respond to frequently asked questions, do data collection for your end users, register them for specific events, register them for appointments at medical facilities or other social support facilities. All of these things can be automated using the WhatsApp Business API. And because the WhatsApp Business API is aligned 24/7, all of this can happen very, very quickly and efficiently. And so you still, if you go to the next slide, despite all of this automation, despite all of the technologies out there, any artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language understanding, all of that stuff, the chatbot technology is simply not perfect. So bots fail to understand more complex customer inquiries. This is just a given. This will happen for your use cases as well. So our bots will get stuck or break mid-conversation. And they're harder to automate in certain verticals, specifically if you're operating in the verticals of health and things like that. It just becomes increasingly hard to build a reliable service for some of these verticals. And so then if you do not provide a human escalation, what that will end up in is that just your users will become frustrated. They will not see the value of your service. And so you need to accommodate for the fact that sometimes your chat bot service is simply not going to be able to automate whatever your end user is trying to do. And so you need to communicate clearly, if a user is stuck in that scenario, how do they then get in touch with a human being who can actually help them? So we can go to the next slide. Right. So Turn can help you with the human escalation, flag messages, automatically categorize them for you, and allow for a human operator to attend to them. So that a human operator can see, okay, someone got stuck in a specific data collection path and they weren't able to complete it, or they answered a question in an unexpected manner and the system was unable to complete the job at hand. And so then in those scenarios, Turn can help you to automatically surface those things to an end, to a human operator, and then you can reply to them, either with message templates, or if you're immediately on top of things and you're still within a 24-hour window, you can do so immediately. And so you can see the example there where someone's taking over a normal, a human operator is taking over a conversation with an end user just to make sure that they get a good quality experience. So WhatsApp may review bots on the platform and to see that, is the human escalation path actually in place? Is it clearly communicated? And is it working? And so it is really important for you to make sure that the human escalation path on your service is communicated clearly ahead of time. How can they get in touch with a human being if they really struggle? How can they do so via WhatsApp or via other means? When they do that, is a human actually acting on those things? And if a number is called, is that actually being answered? And if a specific keyword is triggered over WhatsApp, does that result in a human actually answering the question? So take these things seriously. They are important for your service. They are important for a quality experience. Next slide, please. So some things to think about when it comes to human escalation is, what are the conversations for triggers for human escalation? So is it a keyword? Is it a specific menu item somewhere? Is it a button you constantly include in your experience? How are you going to let an end user know that they can reach out to a human via whatever means? So secondly is, how often someone will actually get stuck in a specific task using the WhatsApp service. They halfway completed a service or halfway completed a, say, survey, or probably a better example is some sort of registration for some sort of event, for example. How do you make sure that when the human takes over from the automated system, how do you make sure that they have full context of what they're trying to do? Now, Turn allows you to store the specific data that you've captured in any kind of conversation or, say, data collection task on the customer profile. So as you escalate to a human using Turn and a human operator starts answering, Turn will actually show you the full context of the individual to give the human operator more insight into all of the subtleties, why maybe something failed, or maybe where there was a misunderstanding. And so it's important for you to know that as you escalate to a human, how do you make sure the context of the individual is actually made available to the human to make sure that they can effectively and efficiently answer the task and not prolong any kind of frustration that the end user may have experienced. Lastly, the quality rating is something that WhatsApp Business API maintains. As I said earlier, there's very clear signals, mostly block rates and spam rates. How often is your service being mentioned as or flagged as being spammy or not providing a quality service? WhatsApp will highlight this information to you in your WhatsApp Business Manager interface on Facebook. And you can see the changes over time. So it's really worthwhile for you to check that as you add a new feature to your WhatsApp service, is your quality rating going up or is it going down? And if it's going down, was it relating to your specific feature, or was there something else that maybe we didn't understand in the design of the service that caused the quality rating to drop? It is really important for you to keep an eye out on your quality rating for your number, because if your quality rating drops, it has significant implications for your number and your service. Because numbers with a low quality rating will be limited in how many messages they are able to send to individual users using message templates. And if your quality rating continues to drop and remains very low for longer times, then you do run the risk of suspension. and having your WhatsApp Business API number completely canceled. So this is something to keep in mind as you design your services. The quality rating, because of the end-to-end encryption of WhatsApp, WhatsApp has no insight in your messages. They cannot see them, read them at all. And so the only signals that they have that you are providing a quality experience is whether or not your users are reporting your service as being spammy or abusive or blocking it outright. So those are very strong signals for WhatsApp, and they will act very strongly in response to those signals because they don't have any much context otherwise because of the end-to-end encryption. Okay, I think that wraps up our rules of engagement session. Apologies for the brief interruption midway. There's a number of questions, and I think we still have a few minutes for Q&A, Indrani and Manish, or do we go straight to the break?
We can take a question or two, Simon.
Okay. So there's one open question that I'm seeing is that, are there any best practices for storing consent? The best practice is, first of all, make sure you store consent. Turn will have, for every contact profile that, for every user that you interact with using Turn, there is automatically a field on that contact profile for opt-in. And so Turn will make it quite easy for you to store that consent for any conversations managed via Turn itself. But the consent does not necessarily need to be stored on Turn. You can capture consent offline, paper. You can do it via telephone, as long as you have and maintain proof on your side that you have received consent from the individual for sending them message templates. So best practices really is just make sure you ask for consent and make sure you keep a record of that. If you're asking for consent over WhatsApp, Turn will help you. If you're doing an off platform, you will need to manage that yourself somewhere else, but just make sure you keep track of those, of that consent. Let me scan through some of these other questions. Can you send the first message from the dashboard to all users where we can ask for consent to be connected in the future? No, you cannot. So you can only ask for consent in response to a message that you have received over WhatsApp and you are responding to that message. So again, if it's a user initiated message, someone reaches out to your service and it's a completely new user, you've never seen them before, then you have 24 hours to reply to them. And as part of that reply, you have the opportunity to ask them for consent for future messaging, clearly communicating all of the intent, the reason why it's important, how you will identify yourself, what they're opting themselves into. So there's no way for you, like I said at the start, if you've got a very large set of phone numbers already, you cannot blanket message them using WhatsApp asking them for consent. That is against policy and the guidelines. Let me see. There's a question here about, can we promote events? I think my colleague already answered it. You can try and get a template approved. And if it's approved, you can use it. Many of these templates and use cases, certainly for the nonprofit social impact sector, aren't very set in stone. And so it's a lot of a trial and error. See if it works. If it works, then use it. But just keep the policies and the guidelines in mind as you try these. So don't get discouraged if your message template is rejected. We have had so many message templates rejected, but it's just a matter of just trying again and seeing if the tone the language changes actually help it get approved, or if it's missing personalization and things like that. Unfortunately, the approval process does not provide a lot of room for feedback from Facebook on why it was rejected. Mostly it's rejected and it'll give you a single word reason as to why, but not very detailed. And as a result, it's simply just an iterative process. Are pictures allowed in the templates? Yes, there are message templates that support media. So you can send images, audio, PDF documents, and things like that. And there are specific message templates that you can create with that allow for those to be included. And the Turn UI will allow you to create those as well. So yes, you can send media in message templates. So there's some more questions that I'm seeing about surveys. WhatsApp does not allow for surveys to be used as message templates, but you can do surveys in your normal session messages. So if someone interacts with your service and say you've got a survey, two-step survey in your WhatsApp bot that does something of a customer satisfaction survey, you are allowed to do that within the 24-hour window, but you cannot use message templates to do so. Again, message templates is from the idea of it should be transactional. So you asked us as a nonprofit for an update. We now have an update and we're going to send you that update. That is transactional. But the concept of a survey does not really fit that model all that well. And so you cannot use surveys for message templates. But if you're, like I said earlier, if you're doing your inside your 24-hour window and you're using session messages, you can do a survey. Turns threads feature will allow you to do that. And so quite a few people are doing that for things like quizzes. Like, did people understand what you're trying to teach them over WhatsApp? And you can do a quiz to find out, hey, did the information that we're trying to share actually land and stick, and do people understand it? And so you can do that within the 24-hour session messages, but you can't do that using message templates. Okay, I think there's two more open ones. What platforms, what are the platforms where we can promote our services which we are offering from the API? First of all, you can use Facebook ads. Click to WhatsApp is one of them that you can do to drive traffic. What we've seen very effectively is that people use QR codes. So if you're a community-based organization doing community work and you're using your WhatsApp service to extend your community work, what we've seen is people created banners or posters with a QR code that with a call to action. So if people scan the QR code, they will immediately get that will immediately launch their WhatsApp consumer app on their phone with a specific keyword. And if they hit send, that will automatically trigger a piece of content or a part of the service on your WhatsApp bot. Does message templates, can you send to multiple users at once after they've opted in? Well, message templates are, you cannot do a bulk send. So you cannot say, send this template to these 100 users. That doesn't work. It's a one-on-one. So it's a send one message template to one user. And if you've got 100 users, you will do that 100 times. And there's ways to automate that using the API. Again, these are constraints that are put in place specifically to guard a high quality user experience. So if you allow sending 1,000 notifications to 1,000 users, you're very close to bulk messaging, which is not an approved use case over the WhatsApp Business API, because it's not aligned with the idea of personalized one-on-one communication with your end users. And so your message templates are meant to be for one user because it's personalized. And so if you've got 100 users, you can send 100 message templates to them, but each one is individually personalized. Can we extract all conversations in one report? yes, you can. If you automate conversations in turn using threads, you can download all that data as a CSV file, and it'll be available to you. So then you can then post-process that and do with it whatever you like and get the insights you need. Okay, so we're at the end of the session. Thanks for attending. I really appreciate it. I think, again, I can speak about on behalf of all of us at Turn. We feel extremely privileged to be able to host these 2 days with you. We're here to support you, make your services a success. After the break, we have our community manager, Manish, doing the basic training. So thank you for attending, and we'll have a short break now.
In the next 45 minutes, we'll cover the basics of how can you use turn.io to build your WhatsApp bot. Let me quickly pull up my screens and then we'll start off with the presentation. Awesome. Indrani, can you please switch on to speaker mode? Thank you. This is what we'll learn today. We'll start with exploring a typical chatbot, and then we'll explore the turn.io interface. Post that, we'll see how to load content inside turn.io. After that, we'll try and build the automation. And finally, we'll look into how can we manage users inside turn.io interface. So these are the 5 sections that we'll cover in next 40 minutes. This is how we will learn today. Each of the 5 sections that we have discussed earlier will have a short video followed by a poll question and then a Q&A session. Remember, we'll have 1 minute to answer each poll. The chat will be disabled during the session. You have to post your questions on Q&A, and we'll answer a maximum of 3 questions from Q&A. Without further ado, let's start with our first video, which is exploring a typical chatbot service. There could be thousands of use cases of a chatbot service. For instance, a WhatsApp bot that gives you information about weather if you share your location, or a service such as WHO that gives you information about COVID-19, etc. Most of these services are made up of few components. Let us explore one of the typical chatbots and see what are the important components of a chatbot. Animals.save is an organization that is on a mission to spread love and awareness about animals. One of the tools that they use is WhatsApp bot. Let's see how it works. If we send a hi to them over WhatsApp, they are responding right away with a welcome message. This welcome message has an introduction of their service and some of the menu items. If we explore further and send them a 1, they are responding back with the content for dog. And that's how they give information about animals. Now let's see what are the basic components of any typical chatbot service. All the messages that you are sending to your users are referred as the content. Anything sent by the user that triggers a content is called as the keyword. Part of content that prompts or guides your users to send the keywords is called guides. These are the 3 components that you will find in any chatbot: the content, the keyword, and the guides. Next, you will see how we can build the service inside turn.io user interface. Okay, that completes our first section on exploring a typical chatbot. Let's assess ourselves with the poll questions that are in your screens now. So you'll see these 2 questions. You have to choose a response and submit it in 1 minute. We have 10 seconds left. If you have not posted it yet, please post your response. Okay, time is up. I'm ending the poll now. Awesome. So we have results ready for ourselves. Let me share those results with you. Cool. Our first question, which one is an essential component of any chatbot service? That's a single choice. You needed to select one among the following: keywords, content, guides, or all of the above. So I see 72% of you have selected all of the above, which is a correct answer to question number 1. Awesome. Let's go to question number 2. Which one is the correct option? Guides are the part of content. Content is linked to a keyword. And third, both of the above statements are correct. The answer is number 3, the statement number 1 and statement number 2, both are correct. So at least 62% of you have understood it right. Cool. I'll stop here for any questions that we have in Q&A section. Indrani, do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions for this particular section. We can move on to the next.
Awesome. Cool. So let me start with our next section, which is on exploring Turn.io interface. Before building a chatbot service inside Turn.io, let us explore the Turn.io UI. You can log into Turn.io using this URL, www.whatsapp.turn.io. Once you are logged in, you will see this landing page. Let's explore the items in the landing page one by one. This section deals with everything related to your content. Adding content, adding templates, etc. can be done here. All your automation logics and rules are built inside this section. You can set keywords, you can set triggers and actions inside this element. Turn.io allows you to track each user's progress towards their goal from within the conversation. You can specify behaviors and targets in this section. Insights gives an overview of how your users are interacting with your WhatsApp line. Questions such as how many messages have you received or sent, which countries my users are messaging from, etc. are answered here. All your account profile settings, integrations, APIs and webhooks rest in this settings section. Let's talk about this section now. This drop-down button enables you to navigate between different lines in case you have multiple lines for your organization. When you click on the drop-down, it will give you all connected lines to your organization. You can click on switch to switch between the lines. Clicking on your number here will open a new screen that contains tools for promotion and marketing. There are 3 ways by which you can ensure that your users have access to your service. Number 1 is this QR code. This will be unique to your WhatsApp line. Anyone can scan it and the person will be directed to your WhatsApp line. You can use it in your pamphlets, etc. The easiest and most conventional is the phone number that you can share with your users. If you are looking for a URL for your WhatsApp line that you can share in Facebook or inside your website, then this is where you find it. This section in the middle is called Collections. Collections are boxes of group messages in the dashboard section of Turn.io. Your collections can be linked to folders that help you to organize your conversations. We will talk about this section in details shortly. This is the search section. Inside it, you can search for your messages and make collections based on keywords, labels, and coaches, etc. This drop-down arrow gives you various options such as adding new members, building sandbox, and template billing. If you click on the drop-down, you can add and remove members by clicking on View Members button. You can click on Add Members to add new members. You can click here to remove any member from your WhatsApp line. You can toggle this switch to make anyone admin of this account. You can top up your account with credits in this section called Template Billing. If you need an account to demo your service before implementing it in production, this is the section where you can create a sandbox account for the purpose of testing. And lastly, you'll get all the resources you want to get started in this section called Help. It will direct you to our Learn resource at learn.turn.io. Okay, that completes our second section, and let's see how much we have understood by answering these poll questions, which should be on your screens now. So you have 1 minute to answer these poll questions. Remember to wrap up in 1 minute. 5 seconds left. Please wrap up and submit your answers. Okay, ending poll now. We have results with us for our second poll, sharing the results with all of you now. Awesome. Question number 1, we can upload media inside the content section. Is this statement correct or not? The answer is yes, the statement is correct, and 93% of you have answered it correctly. Well done. Question number 2, which of the following media files are allowed to be sent to users? An audio, a video, a PDF document, or all of the above? The answer would be all of the above. While uploading a content, you can share audio, you can share video, you can share PDF document with your users. The third question, can we edit content once uploaded in turn.io UI? 61% of you said yes, and 32% of you said no, and 6% were maybes. The answer is yes, we can edit the content once uploaded inside turn.io, and I admit that we have not covered this in the video, but yes, once you do that, once you upload the content, you can definitely edit it. Awesome. Indrani, do we have any other questions in Q&A section?
Some questions were raised and Simon's actually been responding, but I think it'll be great for you to kind of share it out. There's a question on the number of admins as well as the number of members that can be added.
Sure. So we can add as many number of admins and members inside our WhatsApp bot line inside one account. All you need is the Google-backed email of your member that you want to add. We'll cover this in the in a one-on-one sections as well. But yes, you can add multiple members inside your WhatsApp account.
There was another follow-up question around the link for the WhatsApp Turn platform. So Simon did respond, basically saying that either whatsapp.turn.io or app.turn.io would work.
That is correct.
Cool.
Both URLs would work.
And that's all the questions for this section. We can move on to the next.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's move on to the next section. The most important building blocks of your WhatsApp bot service is the content that you are sending to your users. Let's see how can you load content in turn.io interface with an example. Let us say you belong to an organization called animals.save. One of the goals of your organization is to give information about pet animals to the world. Earlier, you were distributing pamphlets and doing all sorts of events, etc. Now you have access to WhatsApp bot. You want to host your content on WhatsApp bot so that you could reach out to more audience and scale your impact. In order to load content, you have to log into your turn.io account. Once you are logged in, navigate to Content tab on the left-hand side and click Add Content. One box will pop up for you to fill in the details. Let's say you want to build a welcome content or the landing content for your service. First, we'll select the language of the content by clicking on this drop-down. Since it's a welcome message, we'll give it a title, Welcome. This title will not be displayed in WhatsApp. That is, your users won't see this, but this will help you to manage your content inside turn.io interface. Now, add the content of your message. This is the piece that goes out to your users. You can either type it in here or copy and paste from elsewhere. We can use the formatting and emoji keys at the bottom of the text field to make the content easy to scan and read. You can even upload an attachment by clicking on the icons below the text field. Your new chat service can accommodate images, video, audio clips, and documents. Note that the WhatsApp API only allows one attachment per message. Now, you can choose a label by clicking on Select a Label, but this is optional. Labels are used to assign meaning to the message and make them easy to find and collect. Note that you can select a pre-existing label for your piece of content or add and assign new label by clicking on Add Label. Finally, let's add this content. If you're back into content section of turn.io, you will see the content that you have just created there. If you click on these three little dots, you'll be able to edit or delete your content. Also, note that you can search for your content by using search bar at the top of the content section. Congratulations, you have just uploaded your first piece of content to turn.io. Now you should be ready to start adding more. Okay, I guess you have already taken that poll earlier and most of you answered those questions correctly. So we have time for Q&A now for this section. If you have any in the Q&A section, Indrani?
I'm just going through the questions here. There's one which says, can we share links to external resources to users? For example, YouTube links, or does it need to be videos that can be viewed only on WhatsApp?
Sure, we can definitely send links, video links of YouTube in the content, and that will be shared to the users as a part of content that you have uploaded in your turn.io interface.
Is there any word limit for messages?
Yes, there is a word limit for the content that you are uploading inside turn.io, but it's always good to keep your content under 400 characters. That's when WhatsApp will tell you to tell your users to view more of the content. So there is a limit of around 3,800 characters, but I need to check that number correctly again. But yes, there is a limit, but it's always to build shorter content pieces for your users for best experience. Yeah.
The next question is, what is the context of label and what happens if we use it?
Good question. So inside the content, there is an option to label your content. Labels are basically used to organize your content inside turn.io. So let us suppose you are a service and you have built thousands of content pieces inside turn.io, and now you want to search for a specific labeled content. For example, the content around maybe COVID vaccine. You can label that content. You can label and group all the content which is around COVID vaccine information, and then you can search based on that label as well. So currently the labels will help you organize your content and search your content. I hope that clears that is helpful. Any other question, Indrani?
Just going through a few more. It's some around content templates, and I think those can be answered outside of this session. As only one attachment is allowed, can we send 2 subsequent messages before the response is received?
Again, a very good question. Yes, you can send multiple responses to your users. because WhatsApp allows you to attach just one attachment per message. So yes, you can do that, and that will cover in the next in the advanced training tomorrow as well.
We can take one more question, I think.
Yeah.
Do we need to get approval of these content templates from WhatsApp as mentioned in the last session?
Okay, so before answering that, let me just give you a distinction between a session message and a WhatsApp template message. All the content that you are uploading in your WhatsApp bot line, like you just saw in the video, that will go out as a session message if you are sending messages in 24 hours window. So let us say I send a hi and I receive a content from your WhatsApp bot line. That's a session message. You don't need any approvals for session message, and you can send as many session message as you want to your users. So that will come under the session message. Message template is a specific case, special case, which Simon has already covered, and it's for the message that you want to send to your users after 24 hours window is complete, and you want to nudge your users for to come back to your service. If your users are coming back, then that clock resets itself to 24 hours, and then that user can start interacting with your service again. So there's a distinction between session and the message template, but you don't need any approvals from WhatsApp for these session messages or the content that you are uploading inside turn.io to be sent to your users within 24 hours window.
Just as a follow-up to that, we have a question which basically says, is the welcome message, that's the first message that you're sending, is that a template message? So I think that your answer clarifies that it is not really a templated message. It would be a message that's part of the global automation.
Correct. So that would be a normal session message that the user will see as soon as the user sends a hi to your service. Okay. Let's go ahead to our next section, which is on automation. One of the major advantages of creating a chat service using the WhatsApp Business API is that you can set up automated responses to user queries. This makes it easy to have impactful conversations at scale. Adding content to turn.io is the first steps in creating your chat service. We have covered this earlier while building a service called animals.save. Animals.save loves animals. One of the goals of the organization is to give information about pet animals to the world. We have already preloaded some messages in the service. To make this content easily accessible to your users, you can now set up triggers and actions to automatically send your preloaded content. You can think of triggers as something that will activate your automation logic. Some of the examples could be when you receive a message from your beneficiary, or whenever you want to handle catch-all scenario, that is, you have received a message for which you don't have any content configured, or a follow-up timer. On the other hand, action is the response of your trigger, such as sending a preloaded content to your user or updating a user profile, etc. Now let's get into our service that we were working on earlier and see how we can implement these triggers and actions. Log into your account and navigate to the automation section on the left hand side. Click on the Add Automation button. Choose the trigger that will start the automation. Like discussed earlier, we can choose between the following triggers. Let's select the message received trigger. That means we are saying this automation rule should activate as soon as we receive a message in our WhatsApp bot line. As soon as you click on the trigger, we need to define the criteria or the behavior of this trigger. We can choose different criteria from the list, such as the message starts with a specific keyword or lists of keyword. The message exactly matches a letter, number, emoji, or phrase. The message is from a phone number in a particular country or region. The message is automatically labeled as The message is from a user with a specific profile, etc. Let's select the first criteria for our trigger. That is, the message starts with a specific keyword or the list of keywords. Now we have to define the specific keyword that should trigger the automation. Let's say our keyword is a hi. That is, we want to activate the automation rule whenever we receive a message hi from the user. Next, you can specify the action your chat service must take when you receive the trigger. The actions could be reply with a message, update a field on the contact's profile, call a webhook, etc. Let's select reply with a message. And now you select the message that you want to send out to your users. We want to send this welcome message for my selected keyword. Once you have specified your trigger and action, you'll be able to give your automation a title and click the activate button. That sets up your automation. Now let's see how our service is responding. This is our WhatsApp hotline. Let me send a hi to my service, and there is my welcome message. Cool. So that's how we set up automation inside turn.io, and it's quite easy. Once you start doing it, it will be intuitive for you as well. Let's run a quick poll and see how much have we understood with this video. Let me select a correct poll this time. Okay, the poll questions are on your screens now. Okay, I hope you have wrapped up, and I'm ending the poll now. We have the results ready. Let me share those results with you. Okay, first question, which one of the following would complete the automation logic? Number 1, only setting a trigger. Number 2, only setting an action. And number 3, setting a trigger followed by an action. Most of you have answered it correctly. The answer is number 3. We have to set a trigger first. We have to specify the criteria of that trigger, and then we have to specify an action. So only then your automation will be completed. Question number 2. Which one is the example for actions that you can perform inside automations? So it was a multiple choice question. We can definitely send a message to users under action section. Again, we can definitely update a user profile section as well. So number 1 and number 2 option, they both are correct. And just to highlight here that we'll be covering more on updating a user profile in our advanced training tomorrow. We'll talk about it more in the advanced training section. Cool. Any questions that we have in Q&A section, Indrani?
Sure, there are a couple. So one is around whether the trigger words are case sensitive. So if you could just answer that. Are keywords case sensitive, or if I type in caps versus small letters, does it make a difference?
Okay, good question. So you must have noticed that there are different triggers, and then there are different criteria of that trigger. So one of the trigger was starts with, and then a second trigger, there's a second criteria that says exactly matching. If you're choosing the second criteria, which is exactly matching trigger, then it will be the keyword will be case sensitive. If you are selecting just a starts with trigger, then the keyword will not be case sensitive. I hope that answered your question. Indrani, do we have any other question?
Can we add multiple keywords per trigger?
Good questions again. Good question again. Yes, we can put multiple triggers, and that we'll learn in the advanced training section tomorrow.
I think this is the same thing about multiple actions. Can we attach two messages or any other type of action to the same trigger? So I think this will also be covered tomorrow's session.
Yeah.
Can we use the automation to update the opt-in and opt-out for the user profile?
Yes, we can collect opt-ins and opt-out using automation logics, and again that's something that we'll cover tomorrow. But that's a use case around how we can update a user profile field using automation. In short, you can definitely collect opt-ins using automation. Any other questions, Indrani?
There's one question which says, is there a criteria where the keywords could be anywhere in the message?
No, unfortunately, we can just use a phrase or start with keyword. So currently, we cannot select a keyword inside a phrase. So that is not possible currently. You can just use keyword starting with something, or keyword exactly matching something, or some phrase.
I think we're good to go in terms of questions. We can move on to the next session.
Awesome. So let's head on to our last section, which is on collections. You can send personalized and private messages to your users inside collections. Collections are boxes of group messages in the dashboard section of turn.io. Your collections can be linked to folders that help you to organize your conversations. Let's see how can you utilize Turn to manage private and customized conversations. If you go inside all conversation collection here and click on View Chat, you'll be directed to this screen. This is where you send custom replies to your users. This feature is especially useful for organizations with help desk agents operating the chatbot. This section gives you the list of all users you are interacting with. You can toggle between users by clicking on them to see the interaction of specific user. All interactions with the users rest here. You can scroll up and see all past interactions with the user. If you want to send a customized message to your users, you can write and format your response in this reply box. You can click on this lightning bolt sign to get all preloaded content to be sent to your users. You can select and directly send the content from here. You can assign this user to a particular coach or agents who are added as members inside your chatbot account. You can generate the link to this particular chat by clicking on this button in order to share this chat within your team. When you are done answering a question from the user, you can also close the chat so that you could track which one are still open conversations. You can filter the open and close conversation by clicking on these options. This is the user profile section. You can edit the value in this profile fields. You can even add more profile fields by clicking on Add button. Profile fields are very helpful in case you want to trigger an automation based on specific profile field, such as if you want to trigger different content for the users whose language preferences are different, or users who have opted in or not. We'll discuss more about this profile-based automation later. Now, let's go back to our collection screen. Let's see how can you make these collections for ourselves to manage users. In order to make a collection, you have to go inside Search here. Let us say you want to build a collection of all the users who have sent you a word, say dog. You will first search all those users from here. It will return all messages that has a word dog in it. Once you have all those messages, then you can click on Save as Collection. Once you do that, your collection appears in the dashboard like this. You can now go inside this collection and manage only those users who have sent you a keyword dog. Similarly, you can build collections out of coaches assigned and labels. You can always edit or delete your collection by clicking on these three dots. Okay, that completes our last section on basic training session. Let's see how much have we grasped uh, on our last sections by these poll questions that should be on your screens. Give me a second. I need to pop up these questions again. Cool. Please submit your responses now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ending poll now. Cool. We have all the answers from you. Let me share these results with you. Question number 1. You cannot send custom replies to your users from turn.io. Is this statement correct? This statement is not correct, and 88% of you have answered it correctly. So I admit that's a trick question, but you can send custom replies to your users from turn.io. Cool. Question number 2. Which one of the following is or are correct? You cannot add multiple profile fields for your user. This statement is wrong. Next statement is correct, which is you can add profile fields for your user. You can edit custom profile fields for your user. This statement is correct as well. You can go to the profile section inside all conversation collection, and then you can add or edit custom profile fields. Third option, you can build profile-based automation using profile fields. Like discussed earlier, yes, we can build automation using profile fields, and this is what we'll discuss in the advanced training section tomorrow. The fourth option is also correct. Third question, which among the following statements is or are correct? You can make collections based on keywords. This statement is correct. We can make collection based on keyword. Like in the video, the keyword was dog. You can make collections out of that, and you can see how many people have sent you a keyword or a word dog. Option 2, you can make collections based on labels. Again, yes, you can make it. The option is correct. You can make a collection based on labels. Option number 3, you can make collections based on coaches assigned. Again, yes, you can have any number of coaches or any number of members in your WhatsApp line, and then you can assign the conversations to the coaches, and lastly you can make collections out of coaches assigned. So this option is correct as well. Last option, you can make collection based on automation logic. 60% of you have answered it yes, but the answer is no. You cannot make collection based on automation logic inside collections. You cannot make that inside from the search window. So only you can make a collection based on keywords or labels or coaches assigned currently. That finishes our last section. Indrani, do we have any questions?
Yeah, there's some questions around tags and labels. So let me maybe go through those. How are collections different from labels?
Awesome, good question. So labels are used inside content. You can actually label a content, or you can label a chat, and based on those labels you can make collections. Collections are, you can think of collection as a bigger data set that you want to track in order to manage your customers. And then if you make collections based on labels, then you can get inside that collection and just manage those particular conversations only. So there's a difference between labels and collections. Collection is a tool to manage your users, whereas the labels is a tool to manage your content. I hope that distinction is clear.
Great. Another question is the collections. Do all these collections all contain session messages only?
So all these collections, whatever word that you will type in your search window will come up. So it will include session message, it will include templated message, it will include all the messages that you want to search for a particular word inside the search window. So it will include all.
There's another question. This is about keywords. Can we use URLs, maps, or any other media as a keyword?
Essentially, currently, I don't think you can use media or so you can use basically the URL, I guess, by choosing an exact phrase. But let me confirm that. I might need to confirm this, but you cannot use a media as a keyword. You can definitely use media as one of the triggers, as in if the label is media, then you can trigger a specific message. You can do that, but let me get back with that. Let me park that question and give you the answers on whether we can use URLs or not.
I think that's most of it, but we also have a really nice comment saying that poll time is fun.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So that finishes our basic training session. I hope that was helpful. I now hand over to Indrani to take it forward.
Thank you, Manish. That brings us to the end of our sessions for day 1 of the bootcamp. I hope this was a productive day of learning for each of you. From the inspirational stories that we have showcased, some very interesting ideas and services shared by our community members. We've also reviewed the WhatsApp API rules of engagement and run through the basic training of the Turn.io platform. Tomorrow, our session will be to focus more on building the service with more training, so advanced and technical. We will also cover the ways of connecting your data with tools such as BigQuery and also share best practices. Next slide, please. Before we wrap up our day, a few quick reminders. Apologies, firstly, about the confusion at the start of the session today about the updated timings. The session tomorrow will start at 1:50 p.m. Indian Standard Time, sharp, just like today. So please be on time and try to join 10 minutes before the start of time if you can. In terms of a breakout session, there will be a technical training session that will be held in a separate Zoom meeting. So details of that will be provided tomorrow. Please make sure that your technical team members are joining that session as needed. Some quick homework for you, and I'm pretty sure some of you have already started on this. Start identifying which team members from your organizations will work on the service for the next 3 months and beyond. Start drawing out your wireframes for your design, for your service. And also, please join our Chat for Impact LinkedIn community, and we will be sharing that link as well. Manish, if you could just maybe pop that into the chat window for everybody. And with that, let's call it a wrap for day 1. We look forward to seeing you all again here tomorrow at 1:50 p.m. Have a nice evening.